Okay, rear brake pad change on a year 2000 2.2 Camry. I just want to reach anyone before they click off or fast forward. I just want to point out, I've done the rear brake pads. I just want to point out a few important things. Okay, the main issue I encountered here was this area here. So this is the caliper, and you undo that bolt, you lift this up, you clean the guides, put the new brake pads in, put the piston back, and then you slide this down. However, I couldn't get this to clear. Believe it or not, I started bashing it with a bolt and a heavy hammer. But then what I did was, I just got this little thing here. I lifted up the rubber jacket, because there's actually a metal sleeve that runs through here, through a hole here. I lifted up the jacket, I put a bit of, I sprayed a bit of oil in there, and when I got these big pliers, I noticed that it was twisting and turning. So I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm bashing it with a hammer and a bolt to get it back so that this will clear, and yet it's all completely floating. So believe it or not, what's actually happening is there's a rubber bushing in here, and the rubber bushing is absorbing the impact from the hammer. Okay, so if you can't get this sleeve to go back, just put a bit of spray a bit of oil in there, and just push it back, or tap it back, and it will clear. The other issues are the hose has a retaining bolt there, and you have to undo that small nut there, and just take this assembly off, and that'll give you more working room with the hose. Oh yes, and the rubber gasket around the piston. What happened was, I pushed the piston back. I may have pushed it too far back, maybe, I don't know, but when I put the caliper back in place, the rubber caught on the new pad and sort of deformed it. However, again, I was able to just work my way around the rubber sleeve around the piston and put it back into place. So this is the first time I've done a rear brake pad change, because I've always had utes and they've had drum brakes, and I've found this to be quite a challenge so far. Okay, well anyway, let's pack up, have a bit of a rest, and go around this side and change the pads on that. Should be more straightforward now. Yeah, so anyway, let my misfortunes be your fortunes. Okay, this video is for entertainment purposes only. However, if you do feel that you do have the mechanical knowledge and ability to do this work, then please take care. I highly recommend you getting a mechanic to do this work, and save yourself any type of bother. Okay, so at this point all the wheels have chocked. My choice of chock is bricks. The car is supported on a jack, and we've got our wooden pine blocks in place. Okay, we'll undo our small nut there that's holding the rubber line in place. Just make sure that's sitting flush on the bolt. So we'll undo this bolt and we'll put it in a container so as we don't misplace it. So we just flip that up, get our piece of wire, make sure you've got eye protection so the wire doesn't accidentally get in your eyes, and we'll tie that up on the spring up there. Like so. Okay, and now we've got our brake pads. On the other side of the car, this was the culprit here. I couldn't push this sleeve back. We'll see how it goes on this side. Okay, now that's not going to move. I'm going to try and demonstrate that it is free floating. So okay, we'll see that, may be able to see there that it will move within that that bushing. So what I did on the other side, I couldn't knock it back with a hammer, but I'll spray some lubricant in there. Now I'll try and get some in the other side. Okay, and that will now move. I don't know if you can see, but I am pushing that out and back in. Okay. Okay. What that means is I can now confidently know that the work can be done. Now, on some calipers, the brake pads can be put in around the wrong way. These people in their wisdom have made it so that that can't happen. They've got this metal tang here, but before you put it all back together, just make sure that the caliper material is against the metal. Okay, or that the material is on the disc. You can't have metal on metal, so just make sure, and we'll check, and I'll remind you always to have the material on the metal. Okay, so next we've got our piston here. We have to push that back so that it'll clear the extra thickness of the brake pads. We do have a rubber gasket around the piston, so that's the rubber gasket there. If by any chance that does catch on the new brake pads, you can push it back into place with a tool just like that. Okay, I'm thinking at this point we might change out the brake pads. So we can see it's getting a little bit low. So the brake pad here is maybe even thinner than the metal, so that's not good, because the new brake pads hold a lot of heat, and so it doesn't get transferred to the metal part or the backing. But in a situation like this, the whole assembly would get hot, because the metal would get hot and the piston would get hot too. So this is definitely a time to change the brake pads, especially once you get on the lower edge here that it's thinner than the top. So yeah, these have to be changed. Okay, first we're going to clean out our metal guides here. I've got some solvent. In fact, this is just fuel. So I'm just going to clean that, dry it. You know, I should really clean it with a metal Okay, I'll clean them up a bit and dry them off. Okay, we're just going to put a bit of this what would you call it, lubrication grease on this brake guide here. Okay, I'll put that on this side and the other side. Just a reminder, never get any oil or grease on the actual disc itself. Okay, it seems as if on the back the tang's face down. So this is the part here that slides in and out of the guide. So what I like to do is just put a bit of grease on there, like so. And that's how you do it. Okay, now we have to drive the piston back. I can't recommend driving the piston right back. Just do it in increments until you clear the brake pads. Because of my past experience with catching the rubber of the piston, what I'm going to do, and there is a little notch there for the rubber to hook onto. Unfortunately, that's not a very good design in my books, but I have put a little bit of lubrication around there so that if it does knock on that that notch there, then hopefully, you know, it's going to be okay. Okay, so that's the situation there. Okay, got a C-clamp. We're not going into the back of the piston. We've got an old brake pad covering the where the piston meets the brake pad. Around the back we're on the caliper. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten this up, and the piston's going in fairly easily, but I'm going to do it in increments and keep it out as far as possible. Okay, so that's it. So that's how far back the piston had to go. Okay, so it's sticking out of the rubber gasket there a couple of millimeters, and that's enough to clear everything. Now, this sleeve here, we know that it's free, so we push that back in and job done. In the brake fluid canister, we see we've got enough room in there, so it didn't fill up the small canister there too much. So yeah, alright, that's my ticket, and I'll just finish up. So we'll remember to we'll get our wire off while we can, and that might be an issue for later on. You might be able to see there that the rubber gasket holding the covering the suspension strut there, or that unit, has deteriorated. So I might have to find something, try and find something to cover that. But anyway, I digress. We will carry on. Okay, so we're all good, and put a small bolt in there. At this point we'll make sure that everything's honky-dory in there. Okay, so we've got the metal on the outside, we've got our brake pad on the inside, and that's hopefully the same on the other side. If I can show it up, I'll check that and make sure everything's situated properly. Tangs are on the outside. We have to put this back for our rubber line. Yeah, it's a good idea to just to make sure that that's sitting square on the nut head there. But I'm not going to tighten it up too much. Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Okay. Okay, last chance to check, because your life will be depending on the success of this work. If you're doing the work for somebody else, then that other person's life will be depending on your work. So we've got the line on, the discs are around the right way, we've got our bolt back in and it's tightened up. Now I'll put the wheel back on and we'll test the brakes. And we have to brake in or bed in, or whatever term you would like to use, the new brake pads. Okay, they're calling it the bedding in process. So this is the bedding in process there. So accelerate the vehicle to 60 kilometers an hour. Moderate pedal effort, reduce speed to 10 kilometers an hour, so don't completely stop the car. And you do that 10 times. Okay. So that's dimensions, the make, a few tips for the work. Don't use lubrication spray on the nut threads. In my experience, that does cause hydrolock. Okay, and you'll strip the nut threads. Okay, the nuts are on, they're tightened up a bit, so now I'll let the tyre down onto the ground a bit. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so all four discs, or all four tyres have new brake pads on them. Excuse me, I'm a little bit tired. It's taken a while to do this work for me. So at this stage we've got brake pressure and we've got sufficient brake fluid in the brake reservoir. Okay, so at this stage I do know I've got fluid in the reservoir, and I've got brakes, so I established that, and then I've driven down here to this industrial estate, and I'm doing the bedding in process. I've done 2 stops and it's almost 400 meters since the last stop, so I'll do the 3rd stop soon. So I'll bring it up to maybe if I turn on the lights, no, that makes no difference. Alright, I'll bring it up to 60 kilometers an hour and I'll brake down to 10 kilometers an hour. So and that's it. Making sure there's no one behind. Hazards are on. It's early on a Saturday morning, no one around. So I'll drive another 400 meters and I'll do it again until it's 10 times done. Okay, what I did was I recorded the stops on a piece of cardboard just to keep track. I sincerely hope that your brake pad change is going to go smoothly and efficiently. I hope this video helps. Please like and subscribe. Okay, I'm driving home at the moment and I can see this brake light there. So what that probably means is there's the brake fluid canister probably needs a little bit more fluid in it.
Turn left on Chiltern Road.
Okay, that warning light is going on and off, and it's a classic signal of a low reservoir. So the oil is about on the ridge there. So let's put a bit in and see how it goes. Okay, now with the cap off, we can see that it is a little bit low. So I'm going to try filling up to the top of that plastic there and see how it goes. But I'm pretty sure that that's going to fix it. Okay, a couple of days later, 25th of the 4th, 2021, and yes, that did indeed fix that problem of the brake light coming on the dash. So it was just that the reservoir was too low. So I hope you found this video entertaining, and please like and subscribe.